We are hours away from teams taking to the diamond for the 2024 IGH SAU State Softball Tournament, and one of those teams that won't take the field until Tuesday is the Spartans of West Monona, and we have their head coach, Dan Thompson, joining us this week on Coach's Corner. First of all, thanks for being here, Coach.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start with that round one game that's set for Tuesday against Audubon. Kind of how has preparation gone for that game?
I think we've had a really good week of practice, focusing on our fundamentals and the things that we do well, and then kind of building in our game plan for that game. We do that for each postseason game, and it's kind of part of our routine. So not a big surprise for our kids, but I like where we're at, and we're just kind of putting the finishing touches here on it Sunday and getting ready to go down Monday.
Talk about the run through your region in those past few postseason games. Kind of how have those games kind of helped you get to this point?
Yeah, so I mean, when you get to the postseason, it's the one and done format. So you got to be ready to go right from the beginning. And we scored early in 2 of our 3 games, and we led most of the way in all 3 of those. So that was that's what we're looking to try to do again, obviously on Tuesday. And our kids have been locked in really well, having really good at bats, and we've pitched and played good defense. So that combination usually puts you in a good place.
Anyone that's been paying attention to the softball landscape the past couple years know that the West Monona Spartans are pretty good, to say the least. So kind of what makes this team gel so well?
This program's been coming here for quite a few years. This is the 7th year in a row in the regional final, which is quite a feet. And a lot of people I've said have put a lot of work in before me. But over the last 3 years, we've continued to grow and build it. Our kids work really hard. Not only in the season, but outside of the season, whether they're playing in fall ball or we're working in the spring and those kind of things. So, they put a ton of time and effort into it, and it's neat when that shows on the field. And through a full 40-game season, they're able to have a lot of success for sure.
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned there, kind of the whole preparation, even in the off season. So kind of walk me through what that's like, because you can't just wake up in the morning and find yourself in a state tournament. What is that off season like? Yeah,
so I mean, for some of these kids, they've been doing this for years and years and years, and others, not as long a time. But we get a certain number of hitting dates in the off season that we take full advantage of, and we had incredible attendance for those. Our pitchers and catchers are working, tirelessly from, November on. So it's a lot of work and a lot of preparation when you get to the season, because you don't have that many practices really when the year starts. And even when we get to practice, there's a lot of other sports and other things going on. So rarely do you get your whole squad at the same time. So you got to do that preparation beforehand, put yourself in a spot to have a chance to be successful for sure.
And like you mentioned, when you get to the season, not a whole lot of practice time because you're playing a lot of games. And I kind of want to focus on some of the biggest games that you feel like helped form your team this year. What were some of the toughest games, wins or losses, that kind of, bolstered confidence in this group?
Yeah, so we really built what we thought was a pretty challenging schedule. Early in the year, we got to see Sergeant Bluff and Esterville on that first weekend at Heelan, and some really good tests. And we played some good softball and some not very good softball in that weekend, but it was a good weekend for growth. As we continued on, we had a great game with Remsen St. Mary's. That was 1-1 into the top of the 7th, and we love playing them every year. And it's been a great softball game the last 3 years in a row. And there's a reason why they're undefeated. They're a really good team, so I thought that challenged us. Our biggest hiccup of the year, we went down to Avoca. It was about 100 degrees, and we played really poor defense. We just had our worst night of the year by far. And those are really key moments, because it was a point in the year where we had to decide, was this thing going to spiral? Are we going to go downhill? Are we going to kind of fall apart? Or are we going to kind of gel together and take ownership for some things that we got to do better? And I think our kids as a whole did a really nice job of that. Our last 2 weeks, a lot of really tough games. We saw Griswold, Storm Lake a couple times. We saw Woodbine. Some good challenges for us that I feel like really got us tested and ready for what we wanted to see at the end of the year. We also took a trip down to Carlisle and got a chance to play Van Meter, who's number 1 in 2A, and played right with them for 5 innings. So that's got to give us some confidence as we go down there next week.
Can you kind of talk about the keys to success in this tournament as you guys get ready to play Tuesday and hopefully, for the next few days after that?
Yeah, so I think a lot stems on our offense. We've scored a lot of runs this year. The games we've struggled is when we've been held down. So getting our offense going, getting people on base. Our kids run the bases really well. We can play the short game if we need to, and we got some people who can hit it out of the park as well. So that balance, but getting our offense going really takes the pressure off the pitching and the defense. And we like to be able to play with the lead and keep the pressure on. So having good at bats right off the get go and trying to get some people on base and put some pressure on the other team is really what we're looking to do.
Can you kind of walk us through some of the most important players on the Spartans roster?
Yeah, so I think a really neat thing this year, all of our starting lineup and including one bench player was honored in some way with an all conference and award. So that's a really neat accomplishment for our team. But we're led by our seniors. Casey Miller leads off and has been a tremendous player for us, shortstop, and is great defender and great at getting on base. Abby Hyatt is one of our pitchers, a senior pitcher who bats third. She's thrown really well this season and been really solid in the circle for us, along with Carly Stengel, who also pitches and bats fourth for us. And Savannah Lucas is our junior center fielder, was an all-district pick this year. That's kind of the top four in that order that get things rolling. But the beauty of this order this year is that we've been able to, score at all points in the lineup. We go Bree Hill and McKenna Baker. The next two batters are first team all conference players, and Nevaeh Healy, who's a really powerful freshman for us with a lot of home runs. Jocelyn Gockel is the 8 hitter, a senior who's great at getting on base for us, and then Creighton Lichtenberg, our senior or sophomore catcher, been one of our most improved players over the last couple of years. So that's a really deep lineup, and we are able to lean on different people every night.
And obviously, you're hoping to notch a few more wins before the season wraps up. But can you just kind of talk about the season and kind of how proud you are of the girls that they reached this point?
Yeah, we talked at the very beginning of the year about how hard it is to get back and the things we had to do and the things we had to focus on to do that. And I thought our kids took that to heart and really did a nice job of riding the ups and downs of the season. Sticking together and helping each other along the way. Different people struggled at different times, and people picked them up, and other people picked them up in the games and made plays. And I'm proud of them for sticking together. There were some tough times throughout the season. That's just part of the journey. But they really came together, and they've been really playing really good softball here the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, we want to wish you the best of luck in the 2A tournament as you guys get ready to take to the field on Tuesday. And I thank you for stopping by and chit-chatting some Spartan softball with us, Coach.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.